Oh, let's see what I got here. I'd like to speak to you a moment about the business, the show business per se. It's gotten to the point where inferior talent has just reduced the quality of show business. The loud singing, the wild hairdos, the wild clothes. They are relying more upon how they look as opposed to what they can do, because they certainly aren't proficient performers. There are, of course, a few around that is talented, but the important thing is no one's doing anything about it. No one is trying to show these people the ethics of show business, number one, the technical end of show business, how to walk on, how to walk off, how to bow, how to say good evening, and how to say thank you. They haven't learned the craft, stagecraft. They have not been taught the proper way to perform or the proper way to entertain people. There is, of course, a way. There is no school for this. The school in which I attended is out. We had clubs, we had theaters during my time. Made it easy. For instance, to give you an example, I worked in New York, and four major cities in my lifetime I worked religiously. Like, I worked Chicago, Philadelphia, Baltimore, Washington, Detroit. Now, the major cities where I produced in clubs was Detroit, Chicago, New York. In New York, of course, the Cotton Club. In Chicago, the Grand Terrace. And in Detroit, the Plantation, the Bowery, and the Fisher Theater. Many places where I produced. And at that time, there were many theaters. Giving a real good example, in Chicago, Balaban and Katz, who owned about 8 theaters or more. There was at one time, all of these theaters were operating the variety type shows. The State and Lake, the Chicago, the Oriental, the Palace, the Regal, the Tivoli, the Granada, the Marlborough, the Uptown. All of these were where they had bands and girls. And of course the Halstead Theater, and there were a couple of vaudeville houses that were around. And in Detroit you had the Fisher, you had the Michigan, and you had the Warners, and you had the Copen Theater, and in Chicago you had the Grand, you had the Regal. I went to Chicago. Those were 2 of the places where they housed black entertainment. In Kansas City they had the Lincoln, they had the Highland. I could name you hundreds and hundreds of theaters out. Baltimore, the Royal and the Lincoln, and Washington, the Howard, the Mid-City, the 4-Acre, the Blue Mouse. Just in Philadelphia, the Standard, the Pearl, the Earl, Roosevelt. Gosh, they had theaters all over the country. And the TOB circuit itself consisted of about 30 cities, starting from Chicago, St. Louis, Kansas City, Oklahoma, Tulsa, Oklahoma City, Muskogee, Dallas, Houston, Galveston, Shreveport, Louisiana, New Orleans, Louisiana, Winston-Salem, North Carolina, Raleigh, North Carolina, Reidsville, Virginia, all through the Virginias. Gosh, they had a whole big circuit where you could join from one show to another, and you could enjoy life, enjoy your trade. Now, the only thing that is existing in Los Angeles, particularly, I haven't been to New York in many years, but here on the coast, the owners are making money, and the poor performer's not making anything. And the poor performer is so frustrated, he feels and thinks that if he goes into these clubs and do these showcases for free, don't get paid, but the owners are getting $5 a person to come in, and $2 drink minimum, and it's not benefiting the performer because there's nobody there to see them. The performer doesn't get anything from except go there and sing for free. Now, if these aspiring young performers had places where they could work, it would certainly benefit them because these showcases are not. Then the people who operate the nightclubs, they don't know what they're doing either. They know they're getting a lot of free entertainment. But as large as this city is, there isn't one nightclub, and it's just pathetic. I think something should be done. I don't know what. I know that if you go to someone and say, I need some money to put on a show, there's a lot of loose talent. They look at you like you're crazy. They don't think about what could you do with it, you know. So I just go on about my work here at Barblin Studios. I have a young lady that I have been sponsoring and tutoring for the past 5 years is now paying off. She's in Vegas now at the Hacienda Hotel with Sherman Hemsley in the show. Norman, is that you? This is a stepping stone for her. She's been singing on the ships, playing the cruise lines, and I try to keep her from being local. I have not let her work with 2 or 3 local clubs in the 5 years that she's been studying with me. She's only been working 2 years, but I have not let her play more than once a year in the city because I don't want her to become local. And the students that study with me really can't afford me. They're spending a lot of money, but I don't know what they're going to do with it after they learn it. They have to learn more than one thing. This is one of the things that they should learn, like I've said to the young lady that I manage, Angela Teague. I have seen to it that she has learned to dance, ballet, modern jazz, and I teach her tap. And she's learned to sing, and she's also learned to become an actress. That's what she's doing now. This is one phase of her career, acting. If you start planning one thing, you're dead. Because if that one thing doesn't transpire, then what are you going to do? You're just going to have nothing. So, in closing, I'd like to say to all young, aspiring theatrical performers, don't give up. Keep trying. And learn more than one thing, but be proficient in one thing. Because if you're not proficient in one thing, then you have nothing. You have no background. You must have a background. One something. Be the greatest singer or the greatest actress or the greatest thief. I don't care what you're going to be. Be good at one thing.